Are you ready for another episode and another hopefully not frustrating guide in our now ongoing series of Planet Cool Stuff and our ultimate guides to these amazing things in pop culture? I hope so, because here we are. Today we're talking the ultimate guide to movie posters. Now, by design, this shouldn't be as upsetting as our guides to horror movies, 90 movies, Nintendo games, Genesis games, or cartoons, because my old heart just can't take it anymore. I can't have the highs and lows, the rushes. So we're going to see if this keeps it a little bit more down to earth. As I said, this is part of Planet Cool Stuff, which is now live on Kickstarter. There's only 5 days left. This is your kind of, I don't know, quarter, the last quarter warning. We're at the top of the last quarter. I'm really bad at sports analogies. Top of the last quarter, your last chance almost to get a DVD or Blu-ray of our 13 episode series that talks about all these amazing pop culture topics. But you also get to have your name in the credits if you want. And there's a cool few add-ons as well, like really bad sketches. And of course, you'll get a digital version of the series as well. If you're in Canada, you may be lucky enough to be able to stream this via Jinxie Sports TV, part of Super Channel, and you can get a 30-day free subscription for that as well. Otherwise, this is your best option to check out Planet Cool Stuff. Silver Knight Kyle, have you recovered from our cartoon roller coaster the other day? Oh, my goodness, my friend. That was a doozy. Today we are talking movie posters. I have 3 lists, and here we go. Crazy People had an amazing poster. We'll find out if it's on the list. I think, like we always like to do, we should start off with a definition of what makes a great poster. For me, it's one that completely encapsulates the concept of the film without having to explain anything. It should make you want to see the movie, but it should also explain, the genre and what to expect. Blake Snyder, who is an author and screenwriter, wrote a series of books called Save the Cat. And when he talks about movie posters or sometimes key art, he says the whole pitch and the whole premise of the film should be there. And his favorite example was something like The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock. The title itself says it all, but when you see Sandra Bullock down on one knee proposing to Ryan Reynolds, you kind of get it. Legally Blonde is another one, which he thinks is the best title ever. It's a pretty good title for sure, because it does say it all in the title, but then when you match it on the poster, you totally get a sense of what the movie is going to be like. So good, it got recalled. Revenge of the Jedi, best advanced poster. So I should say, on the note of advanced poster or teaser posters or alternate posters, I don't know if those are going to be included in any of these lists. I never check out the lists ahead of time, which I'm sure you can tell by my my super surprised reactions, my off the cuff remarks, and I should really connect a an tachometer, so you can measure my heart rate and have it on screen so you can see the reactions in real time to my heart rate and everything that's going on, because some of this stuff is just too much to bear. So without further ado, let us begin the countdown. Let's add this to the stage. All right, so this is from IGN, and this is from IGN readers who have picked the top 100 movie posters. We'll see if this holds true. All right, so we're starting off with the Goonies. Again, I'm not going to get too upset. It's about what you like and what you think is a good poster, but if we go by our definition, it should tell us everything we need to know about the story. Of course, be visually pleasing, but really pull us in. So if we go by the poster, this is a pirate treasure movie, right? It's going to be some sort of adventure. I think this poster is really great. It has what's kind of become the format where, kids in a triangular pattern, or heroes or characters in a triangular pattern to draw you in, and some sort of iconic set piece in the middle to be the focus of everybody's attention and energy. But this is definitely a really good poster. Do you like the Goonies poster? Do you have this? The Goonies poster I think I prefer the most is the one where they're hanging on the rope and you're almost looking down it. I believe they're all by Drew Struzan. And one thing I do kind of detest is when you get press quotes on posters. I'm not sure if they meant to do it with this version or not, but The Goonies is awesome adventure. Indiana Jones, look out, because here comes the Goonies. And then we got another Indiana Jones quote. The Goonies has something for everyone, from the man who gave us Indiana Jones. Do you really think they're trying to hammer home Indiana Jones? Because I clearly think that is their intention. Goonies are good enough. Having a great hair day, sir. Looking smooth. I'm glad you are, Kyle. Unless you're saying that about me, in which case I have to thank Rockaholic Grooming Company. There are wonderful products to do all this. Okay. Spider-Man. So here we are. We are going to have advanced movie posters, okay? I guess at least on this list. Spider-Man 3, the debut of the symbiote Spidey suit. We get our first glimpse at it. Brooding against the wall. I don't know if he's on a gargoyle here. He might be. What do you think of this poster? It doesn't tell me much other than that this is a Spider-Man like we've never seen him before in this trilogy. You don't even have the Spider-Man font on here. Pretty drab, that's communicating the mood of the film. Often with sequels or threequels, sometimes prequels, you won't get titles on the advanced poster works or the teaser posters because you should be able to pick up enough with what's on them. I don't love it that much. I mean, it's more interesting just to see the character in that suit in that position, but I don't think it's a great poster by any means. It's just, I don't know, kind of drab. Spidey poster there are 10 times better than the movie itself. Yeah, I mean, that film in particular, I thought was really bloated. I thought they could have just stuck with Sandman and it would have been a compelling story. I mean, the Sandman character in the arc alone was enough to not have to introduce the symbiote side of it. Kyle saying, I have no hair. So definitely about you. Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, so far I like Goonies better. Terminator. Interesting. I never noticed in his glasses it says CSI before. Is that what it says? CSI 101? I don't know. It's just some sort of digital readout. I don't like this poster. I never have. I mean, yes, we see it. Schwarzenegger. Yes, it's a guy with a gun. You can guess that must be the Terminator. But it doesn't tell us what the Terminator is or what the Terminator does or what we're going to see in that film. So therefore, I think it's a lazy poster. I don't think it's great. I also really don't like, again, personal opinion, posters that are purely photorealistic. I suppose you can make the argument that these lines in the background make it exciting, and those aren't photorealistic. They've been added after the fact, but it doesn't do it for me. Okay, great. You agree with me, Kyle. Thomas Hayden Church is Sandman, the only saving grace of that movie. I agree. Absolutely. All right. So far, out of the ones we've seen, Terminator is the worst. Inglourious Bastards. Okay, so are we getting the full story here with this poster? This is a poster that I do have. Bought it after I saw the film. That has something to do with Nazis because you can see the helmet here, like aside from the font that's here. The baseball bat covered in blood. Different names being written on here. Is this enough? Again, this feels like more of a teaser poster than anything. I don't know if this is the final. I don't think this is the final one. I think the final one has the group shot. I'm not sure. Feel free to correct me. Evocative for sure. It tells us the time and place and style and the mood, but I think it could do more. Again, I own it, so it's got to say something right there. This poster is the Uzi 9mm posters. Yeah, right. There you go. The Bear Jew. Yes, true. All these things. Gone with the Wind. So again, another poster that I have. I love the fact that they took this romantic pose and they put it against the fire of the plantation. You gotta remember this was done in the 30s. So comparing it to modern poster techniques and styles, it is a bit of a different conversation. But if we're looking at just art for art's sake, comparing it first judgment, feels really flat. It feels overly painted. I mean, that really adds to the romanticism of it. You get everything you need to get in here. There's a love story between these two. There's obviously some giant event with this location on fire. There's elements of war and just kind of chaos. Everything is not as it seems. The contrast, if I can get my words out today, the contrast between the romance of the characters against the backdrop of the upheaval is a really strong selling point. So in that way, it works. And again, the over romanticized illustration and painting style technique works as well for what the story is. But overall, it feels a little flat. It doesn't exactly call to me. That's probably because I'm used to, other things. Frankly, Rob, I don't give a damn about this one. And my daughter's name is Scarlett, and guess what she gets to hear all the time? We do give a damn, Scarlett. We do. Fright Night. Okay, so this is getting a little bit more fun, right? This is saying a little bit more with the single image. We know that it's going to be a house. We know that it's going to be at nighttime. And we know that there's going to be some sort of crazy supernatural presence that has something to do with teeth. And it looks like it's alone in the middle of kind of nowhere, and there's no one around to help at all. Taglines are also a big help, right? There are some very good reasons to be afraid of the dark. But if we're looking at just the art, does it sell it? I think it does a pretty good job, right? We're splitting hairs, right? This does as good of a job as Goonies. Goonies has a busier frame, but when you're talking adventure, you want to have a lot more elements. When you're talking horror films, you want to have maybe sparse or restricted stuff to emphasize the isolation. So I think they're both about the same. If you guys like any of these posters, again, chime off in the chat. I'll highlight it. So again, another teaser poster for Harry Potter 7, Part 1 and Part 2. I've never seen a dual poster like that before, but, it's kind of like Rome is burning in this case. Hogwarts is burning. Again, this requires information to know what is burning and so why that image matters. If you don't know what Harry Potter and Hogwarts is, you just see a castle of ablaze. Is it good? Is it not good? What I would have liked to have seen is something done down here to offset it. It doesn't look like there's anything there in particular. When you do a kind of a reflection thing, like the Phantom Menace prequel poster with Jake Lloyd as little Anakin casting the shadow of Darth Vader. That's when things get clever, right? And I don't say that this is super clever. Brandon says, I can't stand Married with Children. The neighbor from Married with Children is in this. I'm a muggle. Which neighbor from Married with Children? Marcy, Steve, Jefferson, Evil Dead 2. What do you think about this? I mean, it's a striking image. The title and the skull with the human-like eyes is really interesting, but it doesn't tell me anything about the movie. I mean, if anything, it almost tells me that there's like a living zombie skeleton man, but it doesn't tell me anything about the film. Striking and points for that, of course. Like if you were to hold it up from across the room, you could see the image and make it out. But for me, this falls into the weak pile, similar to Terminator, just not good. Birdman, we're getting super artsy here. I don't know that this is super indicative of what the film is about. If you watch the film and you go back and look at this, you can make some connections. The way in which this character is literally dwarfing Michael Keaton's character and kind of tethered to his psychosis. The way that everything is flat and blurring and blending together, like the art style here, and the way that all the credits here are justified as like the one long take of the film kind of blended together so it's seamlessly put together. But you don't know any of that until you watch the film. So if they're trying to sell you on watching the film, they have like Blue Falcon or some other superhero like character. I forget what his name is in the film. Birdman. I think that would make sense given the title on top of Michael Keaton, but it doesn't tell you much more other than that. So Marcy's in Fright Night. Okay. Amanda Bierce, is that her name? I can't remember. Moon. Again, another striking image and one that can set off my vertigo. And again, it makes more sense after you've seen it. All you can get from this is that there's a really trippy moire-like effect, potentially moon that Sam Rockwell is trapped inside of or standing on top of. And that's kind of it. It doesn't tell you anything about the story. When you watch the film, and I don't know if you've seen Moon, really great sci-fi film, super smart, then this tells you a lot more about it, what the lines could, all the different iterations of the lines rippling out could justify. Like I said, he's kind of trapped within there. I don't want to spoil it because I like the movie that much. If you guys seen Moon, what do you guys think of that poster? All right, Rosemary's Baby. Okay, so this is an interesting one, right? This is kind of interesting. I like the silhouette. Clearly, the baby is front and center and connected to her mind, and how much she, obviously, like all parents, love their kids. But it doesn't tell us much more other than some sort of supernatural cerebral connotation, right? There's just something about that silhouetted baby carriage and her, and there's a separation between them, but it doesn't tell us about the story. Interesting, striking, but it doesn't tell us enough. Again, I'm happy where it is in the rankings in the 90s because it shouldn't be there. This, by contrast, this is a great one to contrast because you've got the people, almost blending into the background, separate from the silhouetted soldier. With the title Saving Private Ryan, you can tell there's a connection between them, but they're separated by distance, and you don't know how they're going to find the person. So this does a fairly good job of telling the story, setting the mood, telling us the time period, and communicating a lot through it. Do I like the poster, though? No. This is not one that I would want to have hung up, but it does a good job and does all the things it should do. Moon was a great movie. Thanks, Kyle. Brandon, check it out. I think it's a good watch if you like sci-fi stuff, for sure. Sci-fi, there's a bit of a thriller element. Flash Gordon. Flash! So, Pathetic Earthlings, who can save you now? So, again, this is that kind of triangular sci-fi trope. You can see it here between that. What I don't like is how everything is so stuck in the column in the center, and you almost miss these awesome details over here. And your eye is drawn right to the brightest parts of every poster, right? So it's framed by white so that you get sucked in, but then you're drawn to this ring, and then eventually you get drawn over here. So Amsel has done a lot of 80s posters. He also did the Dark Crystal ones. It feels a little flat with the red, so you really have to go by the highlights to pull you in. You can tell it's fantasy, you can tell it's sci-fi, you can tell there's a conflict, you can tell that this guy looks quite heroic, and this is probably somebody he has to save, and that this is some sort of kingdom, potential enemies. And given the tagline's placement in this person here, Ming, you can probably tell that he's the threat. So he's appearing larger than life to our dwarfed hero, but our hero looks quite capable and possibly might be able to overcome him. I don't want to say it's a great poster because I don't think it is a great poster, but it does a lot of the things right. Dawn of the Dead. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Again, we can tell, let's pretend there's no text. We see that there's a bloody corpse here that's hidden by something, and we just know that Dawn of the Dead is here. So is this person trying to hide down, or is he coming up? Why is he covered in blood? It communicates a lot on that imagery alone, and therefore I think it's successful. Again, not an amazing poster, but it does its job really well. Enter the Dragon. So I love in England, they weren't allowed to have nunchucks, so they had to actually make this like a bow staff and paint out the rings, which is funny. You should check out that. Again, you get the triangular like setup here. You can tell everything that's kind of going on in the film, some of the conflicts, who's the hero, what he's up against, and what some of the big set pieces will be. So the poster works well, unless you're in England and things have to get painted out and painted over. Evil Dead. Okay, so when compared to Evil Dead 2, this tells us a lot more, right? Now, this isn't exactly a scene from the film by any means, but it is about the dead coming back to life, even though she's like half buried. Why she isn't just like laying on the ground or running and a hand is grabbing her ankle, I'm not sure. But it tells us a lot more, that the dead is evil and pulling somebody down with them or something along those lines. It feels more reflective of the source material. But you don't know where they are. They're in a forest in the film, but this is certainly not a forest. This is like in the middle of a wasteland. So it's not really reflective of the subject matter that actually happens, but hopefully it draws you in because it is a zombie movie. And for that, I think it does. Edge of Tomorrow. So if you've seen this, you probably know that this is not a great poster for the film because for a slogan that has Live, Die, Repeat, which was the original title, I believe, based on a book as well, you would think that there'd be some sort of loop mechanism or mechanic here where things are repeating, but they're not. Maybe you can make the argument that these shifts are all repeating, but they're not. Emily Blunt looks like the seasoned soldier compared to Tom Cruise, which is reflective of the source material, but you have no idea what's going on here other than this is some sort of sci-fi war movie. So very, very lazy. Silver Knight Kyle, you're very kind. So Nintendo Quest has an incredible marketing poster. Well, thank you. We actually did 4 of them, and then the 5th one ended up being our key art, which is what you see back here. So these are all things that I've considered. Live Die Repeat, pretty good movie. Again, that Groundhog Day formula, but I don't think the poster is that successful. Could be better. Big Trouble Little China. Again, we're going to get into the action adventure stuff. We know that, hey, here's a big guy, lots of muscles. He's got a gun. He might be Big Trouble in Little China. And we got the triangular setup. We've got the love interest. We've got some scenes that might play out. We've got some potential bad guys. We've got some supernatural like elements given the lens flares and the lightning. It tells us everything we need to know. Adventure posters are almost easy to do in that regard. And I happen to actually like the frame within a frame where everything is bordered by white. And then you get this subtle kind of fake stage in which we have our love interest sitting on the front here. Aliens. This time it's for war. So this kind of feels like a crappy airbrush by today's standards. And it's hard to tell at first that these are all eggs that are about to crack open and what this thing is in the background. It looks pretty, I don't know, like some giant blob. I feel like there's got to be better posters for aliens than this. What we're getting is a soldier-like woman with a sci-fi-like gun and a child clung to her, and she's looking up at something that is pretty terrifying. So it does some good work here, but overall this feels pretty lazy. Do you guys like this at all as a poster? I mean, it's a good film, but I don't know if it's a poster. The Raiden character, Storm Dude in the background. Yep, absolutely. Aliens is one of my top 5 movies ever. It's a fantastic film. I like it better than the original, and I don't say that too often about sequels. Here we go. So this is 81. Secretary, assume the position. Does this tell you everything you need to know? Is this communicating enough for you? I think it's a pretty effective poster. It plays on a common trope where wives are always worried about their secretaries and their husbands. And what a clever tagline, right? So I think it tells you everything you need to know and what to expect from the film. So far, maybe the most effective one we've seen. Goodfellas. So this image that we're looking at here is pretty poor, unfortunately. But we get 3 guys that stand and operate in the shadows, but we see just enough of who they are to have a presence. And then you kind of get to see the territory that they literally stand over top of. In our case, managed dead body on the street. Everything is kind of black and white. Doesn't tell us too much about the film, but it's doing a lot to set the scene, the mood, and the tone, and establish the dynamic in between the characters and the setting. Not a great poster, but there's a lot that you got to like about what they're trying to do with the poster. You know, what would you do that would be better is always the other question. So hard to do that. And it's also a 90s poster, which was heavily leaning on photorealistic actors to sell the films, and then some sort of cropped element later. District 9. So another great sci-fi film. Silver Knight is saying Secretary was amazing. Boring poster, just selling the cast. District 9 here. So again, we know that it's sci-fi right away, that there's a giant spaceship over a city, and that we have front and center, no humans allowed, with some alien-like creature on it. So it really does a great job of telling us everything that we see. We don't know where in the world, and it doesn't matter later that it's revealed that it's South Africa. But we get this kind of rundown area where no humans are allowed, which pays off this spaceship over a city. So there is definitely alien invasion vibes. I think it's pretty effective, and it works really well, and then becomes reflective of the source material as well. What do you guys think of the District 9 poster? It doesn't, I mean, there's a conflict right there between the spaceship and the city and the size of the spaceship as well, but we don't have any idea who the characters are or what the story's about. We just have the premise, which might be enough for the sake of this film. Oh, so is this something, when we're looking at the Forrest Gump poster, is this something that you would want to watch based on just the poster? I feel like it's kind of bland. It's set on white, I'm guessing, because it's kind of unlimited possibilities and imaginations. Nothing's kind of held back, or nothing's defined, because it does cross so many different tropes and genres. But I just feel like it doesn't tell us enough. All we know is it's about this guy, presumably some sort of park bench, and he's doing some sort of traveling. Yes, the character does traveling in the film, both literally and throughout time. But I don't think it's that great. It's more of just like a statement poster that relies heavily on Tom Hanks in a way that we may not have seen him, or in a role that we might not have been familiar with. Right? Just not enough from this one. Army of Darkness. Okay, here we go with the fantasy posters again, right? Where we know that there's some action and adventure. We have our triangular setup with Bruce, the love interest, the tiny Bruces, good little tissues, and our skeleton medieval warriors, medieval backdrop, and yet he's got a chainsaw in his hand, which is clearly not of the other weaponry that's going on. Even the fork seems out of place, right? Lovely castle. We go right to the brightest stuff first. So this works really well. Army of Darkness is clearly talking about these soldiers here and the ones in the background, although it's hard to make out the ones in the background that they're skeletal until you look really closely, and that they certainly are. So not Army of the Dead, Army of Darkness. Good title. Effective poster. Kind of one of those iconic ones. Probably the most effective Evil Dead poster of them all. Metropolis. So this is a late 20s film. I think 27, or is it 33? I don't know. Feel free to correct me. I'm sure I'm wrong. Fritz Lang, about artificial intelligence, and you can see the homage that C-3PO pays to Maria here. And it's basically about the city and the advanced technology and the workers in the city versus the higher ups in the cities. So yeah, we get the setting, we get that it's kind of imposing in this figure, which is much more organic in shape and yet clearly not human, living within this and all these chaotic, angry lines. So it does a good job. Certainly for the era, it was compelling. It communicates enough that we know it's about this robot in this setting, and this is the kind of setting it is, but it doesn't tell what the journey is going to be necessarily. So that's where I think it loses some points. Skyfall, okay, this is pretty boring. It's basically the classic Bond shot, Bond and a title. Lame. Full Metal Jacket, we get the kind of film that it is. This is going to be a little bit of a punk rock military movie, but we just get the iconography, right? It's kind of like when video games went from having illustrative posters to just doing like the Legend of Zelda logo or the Doom logo or the Quake logo. It kind of gets old fast. People versus Larry Flint. Obviously not a scene from the film, but it says a lot about what the film is. Some sort of sex biofilm about this guy potentially, and his role and his position within it all, and he's literally smack dab in the middle of it all. Take from that what you will. Evocative poster, doesn't exactly tell us too much. It just tells us who and what. Nightmare Before Christmas. Again, this is a really weird one, right? Because there is nothing Christmassy about this at all. It's very Halloweeny. And as much as I'm going to get some flack for saying this, but guess what? This is a Christmas movie. It takes place after Halloween and is all about learning about Christmas and what Christmas means in this case. So yes, there are just certainly Halloween overtones. It takes place in Halloween Town, but it is a Christmas film. So I think some of the other teaser posters have Christmas elements, but this one does not. But great iconic shot, tells us that it's animated, that it's stop motion, and the contrast between Christmas and Halloween. So that is also very good. Jack should be in the Santa suit here, coming down the chimney, maybe. That could be cool. Or Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't like this flick at all. Interesting. The flag diaper tells a lot. It does. You're right. It's an American Enterprise. Love this movie too. The poster's good. Okay, moving on. Donnie Darko. Okay, so this is a film I could never get in. So I'm gonna I'm gonna let you guys weigh in on this. Is this a good poster for you? I know that there's time travel involved, and there's a lot of repetition and things playing out, and what you see and what you don't see, and invisible friends, and the rabbit. For me, it's just not something that ever connected. But I know it has a ton of huge fans out there. Did you like this? Sound off. We're moving on. Star Trek True, Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. Again, I like the colors in this. This is very vibrant for a film that takes place in space, which is essentially black and a monochromatic ship with red uniforms. But you've got your triangular set up again here as usual. Clearly, he's the big bad, the heroes that don't stand a chance. And if you don't know anything about Khan, he appeared in the original series, and the tagline helps a little bit set up the dynamic. At the end of the universe lies the beginning of vengeance. So he was marooned far away with all these crazy looking shadowy people, and clearly they're out for something. You don't know what this is at all or why it's being attacked, and I don't think it actually is attacked in the film. I can't quite remember, but it's an illustrative poster and it's colorful and it sets up the conflict, but it doesn't tell us much more beyond that. Fear and Loathing. Okay, lots going on here. Clearly, the desert vibe plays very well. The fact that it's surreal and, you know, not set in reality, you're not going to get a picture perfect photorealistic like experience. And then you've got the Las Vegas Strip, which you can probably make out not only because of the neon blurs, but like stuff like this here, like the Circus environment there. And then the ink spot, which ties into the journalism bit a little bit, how these bats are chasing him. So what is the conflict? It's hard to say. There's obviously some otherworldly presence and the dichotomy between what he's looking at as reflected in the glasses and the world that he's in. Again, highly inventive. Does it say enough? Don't know, but fun. Scream. Yeah, it is a great representation of Hunter S. Thompson's journey. I'm trying to look at these without a lot of the extra textual information that we get. So, yeah, Benicio is amazing, and I 100% agree. He's my attorney too. Number 68, Scream, doesn't tell us anything, right? I think just having Ghostface on the front would be better. Ghostface holding a knife, maybe small off or like set way back, or a trail of blood or something. This doesn't really tell us anything other than someone scared and trying not to scream. So I don't like it. Same with this one. I don't like it at all. As much as I like The Shining, I think the poster really lets it down. It's really relying on the name of the film. Does not do a good job. Harry Potter, again, we get the classic Drew Struzan triangular position. We know that there's some crazy Castletown. There's books, there's creatures. It looks like there's people on flying broomsticks, so it definitely has some sort of magical vibes. There's sort of ancient relics here, but we don't know much other than it's kids, an old guy with a beard that might be the bad guy, this goblin. It's a fantasy film, but what's the fantasy film about? You'll have to find out. In Canada, of course, and around the world, it's called the Philosopher's Stone, which is what the book was written. But in America, they changed it to the Sorcerer's Stone because philosophy is not as exciting as sorcery, which means every take they did had to change that too. So Apocalypse Now, again, the image says a lot, but I don't know that it's a great poster to pull you in. These are just like, I don't know. Like, this is not good. That photorealistic element. Yeah, it's horrifying. It's almost a horror film, but it's not doing enough. I'm good. This is just a character shot as a poster. Why this is on the list is beyond me. Yeah, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer looks great as Catwoman in a way that we've never seen Catwoman, especially on the screen. The contrast of the red passion lipstick against the black and white skin tight leather suit. It's not a good poster though. Airplane, a screwball like comedy. It almost looks like a baseball too. You can tell that it's on a plane. Things are going to be twisted. Even the font gives the sense that it's not a real disaster movie. It's almost playful and cartoony. So I think it actually is really effective at saying everything you need to know. It doesn't tell you what the story is, but it really sets up exactly what you're in for. American Beauty. Again, it doesn't tell you anything. It tells you that there's some sort of hint of sexuality. And there are flowers involved. Taking someone's flower, it doesn't tell you enough about the poster. It's intriguing and it's eye-catching, but it doesn't tell you anything about the film, unfortunately. Scarface, similar to the dichotomy between the two personalities and having to, you know, deal with the light and the dark. Striking poster, but not a great one. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm going to jump into the comments in a second here. Who cares? Her as Catwoman. Take my money. Fair enough. I mean, it's not a great poster, and to say it's one of the 100 best posters of all time, no. Good marketing, sure. Great poster, no. Lord of War, this is clever, right? Basically building the image of the face with all ammo and whatnot. Walk the Line, very classic Johnny Cash like imagery. Feels a little flat to me, a little bit more graphic, but maybe that's what they were going for. I don't think it helps the film. I think it relies more on your outside knowledge to push it than what it actually says. Clearly, it's about music and walking into the fire, so to speak. The Thing, not bad. You can tell it's winter. You can tell that there's something going on with this character and a bright light emanating from them. But what else is going on? Are they alone? Are they by themselves? Is there other people there? The ultimate in alien terror. I don't have quite enough from this poster. Again, it's striking and it says a lot once you've seen the film. But after the fact, like if before the fact, if you're going into it, it doesn't tell you enough. It's just like this unknown presence, which pays off, with the help of a trailer or once you've seen it, but not beforehand. Mad Max, when the gang takes over the highways, pray he's out there somewhere. So, like futuristic high speed space cop. It's not the vibe I totally get from Mad Max. So I feel like this is not quite the era. It feels the movie's a little bit more run down and everything that. But I do like this extra bit around here in the corners, like just really bringing it out. I love when you can break a border by having something extend beyond it. That really helps pull you in and add a sense of depth. But it's sci-fi. It's futuristic. It's coming at you faster than you expect. Little Mermaid. So obviously, this is the Little Mermaid. We're up front and center, but we don't know anything about this film from this. We just know that it's a character who's above water, which, again, when you see the movie, you know that works, but it doesn't tell you anything except for someone who's isolated, looking at the stars. Maybe they have a dream, but what is that dream and how is it going to play out, and what are the obstacles to seeing that play out? So, King Kong. So this is pretty effective. I wish they would use more of the poster to tell it, but clearly there's the sacrifice of Fay Ray and the giant Kong and all the people with torches and whatnot trying to lure him in there. But is there enough here? You can clearly tell who the big bad is and who the victim is, but who's the hero? Or does that change throughout it? This might be enough. You can tell that it's an intense picture with the amount of red that they use. And clearly this character, Kong, is larger than life. So pretty effective, striking poster. Yeah, not bad. Iron Man 2. So we're getting, 2 Iron Men in the second film. So the number 2, and we see kind of 2 of them. And obviously, if you don't know, God, I was going to call him Warzone. Can you believe I can't remember Rhodey's character at this point? That's hilarious. But yeah, this is just a lazy teaser poster. There you go. Warpath? Oh my God, my brain. For Your Eyes Only. So again, a little much there, a little on the nose. Not a great poster. Just trying to get you in there. And yeah, I don't like it. I mean, why is Bond so small? Is this? I would almost think, is this a 50-foot woman? He might be in his glory if that is the case. Iron Man number 1. Is this a good teaser poster? You kind of know it is. Otherwise, you just know it's some sort of robot thing. Doesn't tell you much. Dirty Harry. Okay, well, we're getting some sort of colors that have been processed and a gun that's being shot. But we don't really know too much. We know that this character is maybe a little hinged or unhinged rather, and that this is the backdrop here. But again, you're not getting much. It's very much a character focus, but what are the obstacles? What are we dealing with? Excalibur. Look at the beautiful fantasy poster here. Again, we have our triangular setup. The sword is obviously featured prominently and above and beyond in front of everything else, but it is a little kind of muddy. It's hard you really have to look around to figure out what's going on. It's hard to miss this army here because there's such a contrast between light and dark. There's almost a magical like presence here. The fallen hero, or almost a fallen hero, but back on his hind legs trying to take on the cavalry there. You got the villain up here. It's a little busy. It's like impressive at first, but then it's hard to digest. It really is. Check on the chat for a minute. James Bond boring. Nah, too easy. Iron Man has forever and a day of comics draw. War Machine. There you go. Oh my God. Warpath. War Fury. War Machine. Thank you. My brain was hurting me on that one. I swear I understand comics. I know comics. What do you guys think about this poster? The Beetlejuice poster. I don't think it's that great. First of all, there isn't a camaraderie between Beetlejuice and Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis that they're purporting on the poster. You have the new family that's walking into this, sure. But it's just kind of silly in a weird way that doesn't connect with the film. I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. Nope. No thanks. Kira, this says a lot, right? Super bike. You can tell that it's obviously an animated film, futuristic, lone wolf mentality, striking image as well. Says a lot. Middle of the road. 300. All you get from this is that there's a battle going on and people are pushed up against the cliff. It doesn't tell you much more than that. You don't know whose side that we're watching, if we're supposed to root for one people or another. Angle is great, the mood is great, but we don't know much more about it other than the conflict. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Again, we know it's a space station. We don't know anything about it though. Somewhat striking, kind of boring though. World is not enough, I believe. Clever use of lines to get Bond in here holding the PP7 and then I guess the villain, but again, it tells me nothing. It's just saying, it's really just telling us the date. Lame. How is this poster this high up at number 45? Tron. Okay, we get our typical triangle here. We know that it's some sort of sci-fi space thing, but we don't know where or what and what this disc means or anything. It's just supposed to evoke, mystery, an illicit genre. Not enough. Sin City, Jessica Alba as Nancy. So this is a character poster more than anything. This falls into that like Catwoman type character thing. Woman in color against the black backdrop, red lettering. Just, I don't know. Not for me. Same with Clockwork Orange. We just know that this is a really interesting character who's holding a knife or a sword or something. What is with the eyeball? It's not telling you enough. This tells us a lot more. This is a guy holding a tennis racket and a fishing rod holding a fish that's dead. So there's a lot of comedy going on here. And now you're seeing like movie posters parody other movie posters. So instead of the spaceship at the side, it's the broken down station wagon. You get the dog versus a snake. It works in the golf clubs. He's not holding swords and stuff. So it works on that level. It's going to be a different kind of adventure film. And it's silly. And you can see that it takes place across the desert. Halloween. So pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin. Oh, it's a knife. The night he came. All we know if we just go off the pumpkin and the knife is that it's set in Halloween and that there's a killer. It kind of does its job. It doesn't do much more setup. But do we need any more setup? Doesn't matter if it's in LA versus New York or Chicago. Probably not. I think it's pretty effective. I don't like the style of the illustration, but it works. 007, there is no substitute. Christmas 95. Again, we're advertising a date. I believe this is the GoldenEye poster. Yeah, GoldenEye. Not for me. Fargo, a film by Joel and Ethan Coen, a homespun murder story. So this does have everything. It has that mom and pop feel. It's quilted and crafted, just like the characters in Fargo. And we see a murder scene with a loose thread. So it's actually quite clever and tells us a lot about what we can expect. Hateful Eight, is it? Is that why we have these eights here? I don't know this at all. Obviously, there's the chains of the slave as well. Again, I don't know. Oh, it's Django, right? Well, why didn't we do more than that? Yeah, I don't think there's enough here. No. Dick Tracy, I'm on my way. This is not the best Dick Tracy poster. And all you know is that this guy's on his way and there's some sort of, is it futuristic? Is it not? And he's wearing yellow. I don't know enough about this to care. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This does more. So we're seeing New York like we've never seen, or the Golden Gate Bridge like we've never seen it before. We see the apes and they're obviously rivaling against society. And they're using military stuff and they're riding horse. So it communicates a lot. And if you look closer at the poster here, you can see that this character here hasn't been washed out or airbrushed out or covered with fog. And you've got some more over here too similarly. So the triangular setup, there's multiple triangles in this one, but this triangular setup tells us that this is the crew that's going to be featured. And they have different disposition than all the other apes in it too. So there's some character work going on here, some setting, and you can kind of tell the type of film. Dumb Apes poster, not for you. It's not one I would hang, but it's effectively doing the right things. The legend ends. So again, we're seeing a lot of information here. We're getting mood and tone, a Batman mask broken, and a hulking like character in the background. Again, we know it's Bane, but if you don't know, it's setting a lot up for success. Batman Begins. I don't like this poster. I never had. You know, it's Batman and he's just shot up at all the different buildings. I don't know. It's just not exciting. I think it's kind of lazy. We see it's Batman. He sees the city, but millions of bats everywhere. It's the beginning of the bats. I don't know. Same with the Spider-Man one. Interesting perspective of a shot for sure. He's climbing up the wall. You know, at the time, seeing that kind of technology when this came out in the early 2000s was brand new. But I don't know that it's a great poster, right? What's the hook? Is it just that it's Spider-Man? Fair enough if it is. It's just, not so much. Rocky, again, 1,000,000 to 1 shot. Guy standing in front of a city. Is that the shot? You know, is he saying he has like no supporters at all? He's the underdog? Maybe, but he doesn't look like an underdog in this shot. And it's black and white, which is fine if you want to make a statement, but this is not the kind of statement you want to make, right? There isn't a real sharp dichotomy that is present that you're playing off of. So I think the poster kind of sucks. The day the earth stood still, from outer space a warning and an ultimatum. So people down here, giant robot, whatever this hand is, this alien-like hand on the earth. There's the triangular approach, the love interest. It tells us everything we need to know. The conflict, the problems, who we're trying to rescue, and the thing we're trying to solve. So it works. I like these fun 50s atomic age posters, but I wouldn't beg to have this hanging up, but I like it a lot more than all the James Bond ones we've seen so far. Poltergeist. So again, taking away our knowledge, it's a little girl isolated in the dark, holding her hands to the TV. Why is she doing that? It's totally scary. It's totally secluded, but there should just be one or two other elements that tell us a little bit more. The trailer is what you need to pay this off of, and you don't have that with the poster. So, sorry. Nightmare on Elm Street. I always thought this was a weird setup here. Like, you get Freddy's hands for sure, and you're in bed and you're afraid to go to sleep. But I don't know that that's completely communicated. I love that, it takes place at night and bedtime, and she's clearly not trying to sleep, but it's almost looked like she's mind controlled as well, which isn't untrue, but it's just busy and a little messy. I want a little bit more than that, Again, with the iconography approach where we're just going to see symbols to tell us everything we need to know. Lazy. Yes, it's big, it's bold. This is all you need to know. This is what we're going to rally behind. It's not enough, though. Tell me a story. Empire of the Sun. This is a film I haven't seen. I know Christian Bale's in it, but I don't know anything about it. I know that we have a setting sun, a glowing orb, and it's probably taking place during wartime because of the type of plane that we see here. But I don't know anything else about that. Yeah, I can read the tagline: survive in a world at war, must find strength greater in all the events that surround him. But I don't know anything about it. So therefore, while it's striking and a good contrast, and there's some color versus the drab life that this character might live, it's not enough. It really isn't. Day the Earth Stood Still was winner so far for you. Poltergeist grabs you. It does, but does Poltergeist tell you enough? Does it tell you enough? Okay. Exorcist. We had mentioned before that this is a good poster. Someone in the chat did. Yes. Who is this masked man standing outside this building? We don't know. What's he doing there? Obviously, there you have this bright light coming from a window that he's staring at. What's he walking into? What's coming from that light? Again, we know the setting, we know the person, but we don't know the conflict. And sometimes that's okay to not know the conflict if the rest is pulling up like the weight and doing the work for you. But this, I would still just like a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more. Again, Bond film. I have this poster. I like the film, and I bought it after I saw the film. So it's James Bond. Yes, here's Bond. It's in a casino. We got chips. It's a dangerous game of poker or something they're playing, evidenced by the gun. But I don't think it's a great poster by any stretch. Captain America, the First Avenger. He's stoic. He's standing still. He's in the middle of the shit. But is it a great poster? I don't know. Here you go. Revenge of the Jedi. You called it. Yes. Is every 007 poster in this? Only the advanced posters, apparently. Exorcist is the winner. Should be higher. The title tells the story. Right. I'm trying to take it. Sometimes I'm trying to take the title out of it in any of the text. Right. So I'm doing my best there. Revenge of the Jedi. Obviously, we have the conflict here. We have the larger than life character. We have the red, which insinuates murder and blood. It says a lot here, but it doesn't really tell us the story. We just know it's sci-fi, so we get genre and we have a conflict. But what are they up against? How do they get here? What is the journey that we might see? This is almost as boring as the first Terminator poster. Again, it's just Schwarzenegger again. But you know what? My opinions, it's nothing personal. So we talked about this one as a teaser poster, and this has that element. We know the setting, we know the character, and here's that one little element, right? The forecast of Darth Vader. If you don't know who Darth Vader is, that's fine. You don't need to, but you know that there's a correlation between who this person is and the shadow that he casts. Very effective poster. It says a lot, but it doesn't sell us on where or how. It needs to do that. Same with this Logan poster. There's Japanese elements in this, and we know that it has to do with this character, but what is it? What is the movie about? We don't know. Rocketeer's a fun one, right? And the Arrow poster, its return. Let's keep going here. The Rocketeer. Is this a great poster? I love the colorful nature of this, and I wanted to see the film based on this because it was some sort of rocket guy that was flying. I thought it was a superhero for sure of that Dick Tracy era, but it doesn't tell me anything other than it's a Hollywood age-like image. I know that now, being the Art Deco lover that I am. But back then in 91, I didn't know that. Escape from New York. Okay, we can tell that we are in New York. The Statue of Liberty has fallen. People are trying to run away, and that there are weird punks and gangs. We don't know who the main character is. We just know the setting is bad, and why would you want to be there? Which, thankfully, is the premise of the film and does dovetail into the title if you were to know it. Again, I love Jurassic Park, but this poster doesn't tell us anything. It's just the iconography of not only the park, but of course the film itself. Okay, what is the logo for your film? Is that enough to get behind? It is not. Godfather, again, another logo. Is he like the puppeteer for Pinocchio or something here? Is this like Geppetto's like prequel story? We don't know anything about that. E.T. Okay, so we have a boy or a person on a bike flying in the sky, and there's something in a basket. Maybe it's another child. Why are they flying? How are they flying? Why is the moon so large? Again, we get the triangular setup, but at least we're getting some story elements that we're starting to understand. It's about this person, and maybe the thing in the basket is something important to them, but how are they flying? So we're getting more and more elements here that work in its favor. Blade Runner. Here we go. We can tell it's sci-fi. We can tell that we're in a different world. We can tell that Harrison Ford is upset and sweaty, and that is not the case for his lady friend there, who is calm, cool, and relaxed enough to have a cigarette. And this is the conflict between them, or is it? They're looking in different directions. You'd think that they'd look at each other if it was a conflict. So hard to say, but he is dwarfing over the city that is being shown in ways we've never seen city before. Not a lot, but it is striking. Here we go. Pulp Fiction, a poster I love a lot. Mimicking the old pulp magazines. We know that it's about her, or she's going to be involved in it. But is it really? A little misleading. Lots of different pulp stories, as evidenced by what she's reading as well. There's obviously some gunplay, but it doesn't tell us much. It's kind of lazy. It's just more evoking a feel and a vibe than saying anything about the story. But because it is such a legendary poster, it's not a surprise that it's here. Jaws, pretty great setup of conflict. We don't know who the characters are, but we know what the problem is, right? That works very well. Silence of the Lambs, similarly, we know something scary and deadly is going on, and we know who's involved, but we don't know to what degree and what to expect. Alien, clearly this is of unknown origin, but we don't know that it's taking place in space. We don't know anything beyond this. This feels like a teaser poster more than anything. It just says it all. What is this weird green glowing egg where something is coming out of? One of the Dark Knight posters, this is an advanced one, Batman behind a prison-like glass structure, looking on the city. Is he being held back? Is he separating himself? Not a good poster. This is maybe the worst Dark Knight poster ever. The one with the Joker holding the card out but not seeing his face, being dwarfed by the city, is much, much better. And hey, I'm not saying Blade Runner is not a great poster. It's super striking and it's highly stylized. I like it, but it doesn't tell us enough about the story. It says who's in it and where they are, but what are we seeing from a story? Right? We just know the setting and who, but we don't know what the character might be after, what they're trying to do. And even if we took the title Blade Runner, we didn't know that it was based on a book that has a completely different name or short story. It doesn't tell us anything still, right? It's just a smashing of imagery of a certain genre. That's all that it is. Raiders. So kind of flat for an adventure poster, but we get all the different characters that are going to be along the way. We do have the treasure, the golden like arc behind Indy there. Clearly our hero is front and center. And we have an idea of where they might be going based on some of the Middle Eastern garb that we see here. Do we have any Nazi symbols anywhere? Doesn't look like it, but you can tell the black hats versus the white hats and the beiges. There's not a lot of supernatural elements here, which is kind of surprising. I know they changed that on some of the subsequent posters, but there is a lot that it's advertising here. What is the story? I don't know. You don't know what Raiders of the Lost Ark is at all. You don't. You just know that this is this big hero here with a whip. There's a golden lake treasure and a lot of people, probably the love interest here, since it's literally connected to his hand. And yeah, so it's striking poster, but is it saying enough? Here's another Dark Knight poster, an advanced one. This one's not bad too. Who's putting it together? Well, clearly it's the Joker, and it's been mishmashed all together. It's all part of the plan. Why so serious? We just have a sense of conflict. Again, if you don't know who the Joker is, you're going to ask, why is Batman all like cut up and torn to pieces? Well, it could be symbolic. It could be, suggesting that that's what's going to happen in the film, but you don't have enough information. Back to the Future. Back to the Future. Kid, some sort of car with a door that opens up, which feels futuristic, the gull-wing doors of the DeLorean, and fire trails, and he's looking at his watch. What time is it? Am I late? Where do I go? What do I do next? Element of danger. And a sci-fi feel. So it has those elements, but I have no idea what the story is, right? If you know it's called Back to the Future, you know it has something to do with time, so the watch thing makes sense. I would like to see a contrast between the kind of car and the futuristic feel of it and the background with 1950s Hill Valley or something like that, because this doesn't do a lot. It just really says, this is our character, this is the kind of movie, and the conflict has something to do with the time. Return of the Jedi. Posters aren't necessarily meant to tell the story, meant to draw you in. Well, I completely disagree with that, because posters should be telling the story. Yes, they're supposed to draw you in, but a great poster will tell you what the story is going to set you up for. It's going to tell you the conflict, it's going to tell you the genre, it's going to tell you the setting, and it's going to tell you what the characters want, so you know exactly what to expect when you see a film. It's not going to give the story away, but it's going to give you all the ingredients that you need to piece together with a simple glance. It's going to communicate a message right away. Return of the Jedi. So clearly the big bad behind everybody here. These guys are a group of, heroes, I guess you could say is the best. I wouldn't want to say rebels, because you don't know that by looking, but a group of rebels that are lit the same. So they're unified and they have supporting characters. They're going to be up against a few different things. You can tell it's sci-fi because of the different genres. The composition, again, is our triangular form. We can tell that there's a bit of a creature feature aspect, of course, because we got Jabba the Gamorrean Guard, Bib Fortuna, and the Ewok. But what are the stakes? What is on the line? What is the biggest sense of conflict? Is it just bad versus good? It is in this case, but we don't know how it's going to play out. If it's more of a journey, if it's more of a psychological thing. We're getting some sense of different landscapes, which is integral and actually quite clever. We see a little bit of the throne room behind here. It's not really forecast. We see that there's stuff going on in space. We see an almost exotic desert-like area here, and we see it again in the interior of another spaceship. So it's doing a lot to say that this is an adventure film and clearly has fantasy elements. But other than saying, look, that this is all here, because it doesn't have to, right? This is the third one. It's probably missing a few points. If nobody's ever seen Star Wars, why would they want to watch this? It might just feel pretty generic to them in terms of other sci-fi films. Okay, so here's a big one, right? So here's Star Wars, the original, one of the first posters that came out. So you don't know what's going on. You know that there's this, guy in black armor with this red like fire sword, and you have these characters that again are joined together, and you almost feel like these guys are opposites. Are these the sidekicks? Are they good? They seem like they have friendly dispositions. We have a space background. We have explosions. We have a desert background here. So we know we're going to be jumping around a bit, and we know that it's going to be the good guys dressed in white versus the bad guy dressed in black. At the very least, we know that that's going on, and that it's going to be some sort of war or some sort of sense of conflict that's happening. Not a great poster, but it, again, is doing a lot of heavy lifting for us to say, here's the main character, here's what they're up against. We don't know why they're up against each other or what they're hoping to do to succeed or what they're trying to stop. But maybe it's enough to draw you in. An Empire. So we're running the gamut here. So how does this compare to all the other ones? So Han is clearly the focus here. Luke is much smaller. Vader is still in the background, overseeing everything and being that looming threat. R2, 3PO, and Chewie are even smaller here. I guess this is supposed to be like the Hoth-like planet, but it's all kind of washed out, right? So it's not the best poster because all we really see is that Han is taking a more central role with Leia. Luke is even less important, it feels like, according to the poster, and Vader's there as well. No sense of conflict other than the juxtaposition of characters. And number one, why so serious? I'm guessing this is the Dark Knight poster that you're talking about. This is pretty good because you don't get to see who the character is. But do you know that this is a Batman poster without the Batman stuff down here? Is this saying enough? I love it as part of a teaser campaign with several other posters going out there saying that it's coming. But I'm not sure that I know that it's Batman unless I have some of that other information. So that's where we are with this. I'm going to quickly go through a few other ones just to see if there's any popular posters that get shared. I'm going to guess that Jaws is on all the lists. I really am. So this one, here we go. So 40-Year-Old Virgin. It's kind of funny. Texas Chainsaw Massacre says a lot. There's the villain. There's the victim. Clearly, it's a horror movie because there's blood everywhere. Parasite. One Best Picture. I don't know what it's about other than censoring maybe family. And there's a dead body there. The Batman logo isn't showing. Airplane is listed there. They're not showing the image, but we'll know just by the title. So Batman, Lord of War, Airplane, Fear and Loathing, The Rocketeer. So these are all the things we're seeing. Moonlight. Not a great poster, I don't think. Different Apocalypse Now poster. This one seems better in my opinion. Social Network. I don't remember that poster. Halloween. Forbidden Planet. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's effective. Full Metal Jacket. Rosemary's Baby. That was on the list too. Mean Streets was not. We don't know who, but we know some guy holding a gun is going to be heavily involved in the city and that there's going to be blood on the hands and at least there's one prominent female. Breakfast at Tiffany's. We can draw some illusions there. Not great. Little Mermaid, again, not the same poster, but similar. Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Again, this tells us all, except for we don't know who the main character is other than the woman, like who's on the side of society. Evil Dead's mentioned. Scream's mentioned. Different Back to the Future poster. Clockwork Orange. Anatomy of Murder. The Graduate. This tells us a lot too. Young kid, woman putting on a stocking. Suggestive where the foot is coming out, of course. Gone with the Wind again. E.T. Yep. Blade Runner. Not a great Goldfinger poster by any stretch. Titanic. Two people over top of, so suggesting that their story is bigger than the story of the ship. It's okay. At least I know the setting. I know the people, but I don't know what's going on between them except for that they are connected. Godfather, Jurassic Park, T2. We talked about all of those. Chinatown. Again, we get the sense that it's a pulpy fiction type story, detective work, but what is Chinatown, right? And that's kind of the point of the movie. You don't know what Chinatown is. And that explains, that's sort of the ending too, which doesn't help that the poster is that murky as well, but it's evident by the smoke. Silence of the Lambs, Metropolis, The Exorcist, Vertigo. This is a poster that I have. If you know what vertigo is, you certainly feel like you're being dizzy and kind of thrown down a hole. This is reflective of the film, but is it going to get me to watch the movie? It tells me that it's involved with these two people that are probably thrown off their balance in some way, but I don't know the setting, and I don't know the stakes, and I don't know the key conflict. Pulp Fiction, Ghostbusters, Star Wars. Here's another early Star Wars poster again. Good guy, girl, sidekicks, bad guy, different planets, different sense of conflicts and adventure. Alien, we talked about Jaws, of course. They've Alien 2 and Jaws at number 1, as predicted. All right. Let's, I got one more list that I'm going to go through real quickly if I can get it up here. Share screen. All right. So these are just 15 best posters. I don't know what the order is. Jurassic Park. No, I don't go for a poster that's pure iconography because it doesn't tell me enough. You know, dinosaur that's a skeleton dinosaur and there's forest there. Not enough. Get Out. Interesting, the dichotomy between white and black here and a black guy sitting in a chair. It makes way more sense when you see the film, but not enough on its own. Graduate. Yeah, we talked about that. You guys mentioned in the chat. So, okay, here's the Social Network poster. You don't get to 500 million friends without making a few enemies. We try to talk about taking the text out of the equation and just letting it sit on the actual imagery itself. But the text is pretty essential here. Not just what the text is saying, but the way that it's almost like imprisoning the character and blocking him, and the way that blocking becomes, you know, reflective in the film. You wonder what has this guy done to make enemies? I don't know. It's not that great of a poster. Shining, awful. Pulp Fiction, we talked about. Not doing enough. Back to the Future, we talked about. Star Wars, Silence of the Lambs, E.T. So this is different E.T., right? This is almost like Sistine Chapel. We have clearly an alien hand. It's over Earth and a boy. So you know that the relationship is between those two people. But you don't know what is going on before that. You just know that there's a magic between them. Exorcist, we discussed. Godfather, we discussed. Apocalypse Now, the first poster. Again, I thought the other one's a bit better. Alien. And then Jaws, number 1. So clearly across the board, Jaws is still kind of probably the mainstay across it all. A lot of good posters. I was asked in the chat here, what's my favorite poster? You know, I'd have to actually look at a few to see which ones I like the most. I don't think I have anything up in here that I have in my room. Oh, these are mainly not posters for official releases. I'll have to look at that. I'll get back to you in the comments. Human Centipede. Let me see if I can find that poster real quick. Human Centipede. There's a few different ones. The one where you kind of looking down, it almost looks like a spine is pretty good. The other ones where they're pressed against the glass are pretty good. You can tell that there's some sort of horror vibe to it, and there are people connected, which pays off when you understand a little bit more. So you get the idea of person, you get the idea of the stakes and the genre. So it works, right? It tells a story kind of within that alone. Yeah. So thanks so much. I appreciate you guys taking the time. Today was not nearly as blood boiling as they usually are. By design. That'll probably change tomorrow. I'm not sure what we're going to look at tomorrow, but I truly appreciate you guys taking some time with us to look at those amazing posters. And I know there are better posters out there, even amongst those 3 lists. So I am now on a mission to find some of the best ones that are out there. Even some of the Labyrinth posters are better than anything that was there. So why were those left off? I'm on a mission now. Thank you so much. Again, back Planet Cool Stuff on Kickstarter before it disappears. There's only 5 days left. You can get your name in the credits. It certainly helped me out and allows me to keep doing what I do, including these streams. I appreciate you. I love you all. We'll take care and we'll see you next time. Cheers.